Once upon a time, in a small village nestled beside a vast and ancient forest, there lived a girl named Zara. Unlike the other girls in her village, Zara was curious and brave, with a heart that yearned for adventure. She loved to explore the dense, shadowy woods, climb towering trees, and run through sun-dappled fields, even when everyone warned her of the dangers that lurked beyond the village. Zara, don't go too far into the forest, her mother would say, her voice tinged with worry. It's dangerous. But Zara would just laugh, her spirit unyielding. Don't worry, Mama, she'd reply with a confident smile. I'm strong and brave. The forest is my friend. Zara's village was steeped in ancient stories and sacred rules. The elders, with their wisdom etched deep into their faces, always dictated what everyone should do. They believed the forest was full of spirits and mystical creatures that could become wrathful if disrespected. But Zara, with her modern skepticism, didn't believe in these old tales. She thought they were just stories spun to instill fear. Every day she ventured deeper into the forest, far beyond where the other children dared to tread. She reveled in the cool shade on her skin and the way sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting ethereal patterns on the forest floor. The other village children admired Zara's bravery and would gather around her, eager for tales of her adventures. Tell us about the time you saw the giant serpent, they would beg, eyes wide with wonder. Zara would smile, her eyes twinkling with mischief. I was climbing a tall tree, she'd begin, when suddenly a huge serpent with scales as dark as the night slithered past me. It was so close I could almost touch it. The children would gasp and clap, awestruck by Zara's courage. As Zara grew older, her bravery only intensified. She began to question all the old rules and stories of her village. Why should we be afraid of the forest? She would ask defiantly. I want to know if these stories are true. Some villagers admired Zara for her fearless spirit, but others were anxious. They whispered among themselves, Zara is too brave. What if she goes too far? One day as Zara approached adulthood, the village chief made a solemn announcement. Standing in the village square, his voice boomed. Listen, everyone, the forest spirits have spoken to me. They say that no one should enter the forest during the next full moon. It is very dangerous. The villagers nodded in agreement, their faith in the chief's words unwavering. But Zara frowned, skeptical as always. She didn't believe in forest spirits, and she doubted the chief could communicate with them. That night, Zara's parents came to her with worried expressions. Zara, her father said gently, promise us you won't go into the forest during the full moon. It's not safe. Zara smiled and nodded. Okay, Papa, she said. But in her heart, she had already decided to go. She was determined to see for herself what would happen. On the night of the full moon, while the villagers locked themselves indoors, Zara waited until everyone was asleep. She quietly slipped out of her house and ran to the edge of the forest. The moon hung large and luminous in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the trees. See? She whispered to herself. It's just a normal night. There are no angry spirits here. Feeling emboldened, Zara stepped into the forest. The familiar sense of pine and earth enveloped her, and she ventured deeper, the trees closing in around her like an ancient embrace. She felt a sense of exhilaration, of defiance against the old stories that had held her village captive. But as she ventured further, the air grew thick with an otherworldly energy. The forest began to glow with a soft, green light, and shadowy shapes moved among the trees. They looked like people, but their hair writhed like living serpents. Zara's heart pounded in her chest. She tried to run, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. One of the Gorgons, a fearsome being with the upper body of a woman and hair of hissing snakes, stepped forward. Her eyes glowed with a sinister light. Zara? The Gorgon hissed, her voice a chilling whisper. You have shown great disrespect for our ways. Zara, trembling with fear, managed to stammer, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't believe. The Gorgon nodded slowly. We know you didn't believe, Zara, but disbelief does not dispel truth. Our world is full of magic and mystery, and it demands respect. Zara nodded, feeling very small and foolish. "What will happen to me now?" she asked in a small voice. The Gorgon smiled, revealing sharp, venomous fangs. "You will return to your village, Zara, but you will carry a part of our world with you. When the time comes, you will understand." Before Zara could ask what that meant, the Gorgons and the glowing shapes vanished, and the forest returned to normal. Zara found she could move again. Shaking and bewildered, she ran back to her house and crawled into bed, trying to forget what she had seen. Next morning, Zara awoke feeling strange. Her head throbbed and her stomach churned, but she kept the events of the previous night to herself. She feared the village wouldn't believe her, or worse, they would be angry with her for breaking the rules. Days passed, and Zara tried to put the night of the full moon out of her mind. Yet an unsettling feeling lingered. She no longer felt the same urge to explore the forest, and at times she thought she could hear faint whispers in the rustling leaves. Months later, Zara married a kind and gentle man named Bayo, a hunter who shared her love for the forest. They were happy together, and soon after their marriage, Zara discovered she was expecting a child. The whole village celebrated, throwing a grand feast in their honor. As Zara's pregnancy progressed, strange occurrences began to plague the village. Animals vanished, the trees grew thicker and more twisted, and at night, eerie sounds echoed from the forest. The village elders were deeply concerned. They conducted rituals and left offerings at the forest's edge, hoping to appease the spirits. Zara watched with a heavy heart, suspecting her night in the forest had something to do with the disturbances, but she remained silent. As her due date approached, Zara began having vivid, unsettling dreams. She dreamt of running through the forest, dancing with the Gorgons under the moonlight, and her hair transforming into writhing snakes. She awoke each morning feeling increasingly uneasy. Finally, the day arrived for Zara's baby to be born. Her labor was long and arduous, much to the midwife's concern. "This is not a normal birth," she muttered, shaking her head. Bayo paced outside their home, fear etched across his face. The villagers gathered, anxious for news. For 3 days and nights, Zara endured excruciating pain. Whispers of a curse spread among the villagers. On the fourth morning, just as the sun rose, Zara's baby was finally born. But when the midwife lifted the infant, she let out a gasp of shock. The baby appeared normal from the waist up, but her hair was a mass of tiny, hissing snakes. Zara gazed at her newborn daughter and suddenly understood the Gorgon's words. She had carried a part of their world with her, and now that part had manifested in her child. Despite the baby's strange appearance, Zara felt a profound love for her. She held her daughter close, marveling at her delicate features and the soft hissing of her serpent hair. Bayo entered the room, eager to see his child. When he saw the baby, he recoiled in shock. What is this?" he asked, his voice trembling. Zara, with tears in her eyes, responded softly, "This is our daughter, Bayo. She's special." News of the unusual birth spread quickly through their village. People gathered outside Zara and Bayo's home, whispering and speculating. Some were curious, others frightened. The village elders arrived, their faces grave. The oldest elder spoke. "This child is not natural. She is a sign from the forest spirits, a manifestation of their anger." Zara held her baby protectively. "She's not a punishment," she insisted. "She's a gift. She's beautiful and special." But the elders were unmoved. "You don't understand, Zara," another elder said. "This child cannot live in our village. She belongs to the forest. We must return her to the spirits, or we will all suffer." Zara and Bayo were horrified. "No!" Zara cried. "You can't take our baby. She needs us." The village was divided. Some agreed with the elders, fearing bad luck, while others sympathized with Zara and Bayo. For days, heated arguments ensued. Zara and Bayo remained secluded, caring for their daughter and fearing the worst. They named the baby Seraphina, meaning heavenly in their language. Seraphina was a unique child. She couldn't crawl like other babies, but she moved with an ethereal grace. Zara and Bayo took her to a hidden grove in the forest where she could play freely. Seraphina glided around, her tiny snakes hissing softly. Caring for Seraphina was challenging. She needed to be in the forest daily, or she became restless. Zara and Bayo were careful to keep her secret, but the village continued to suffer. Animals vanished, and the weather grew unpredictable. Finally, the village chief called a meeting. "People of the village," he began, "we have lived in harmony with the forest for generations. But now that harmony is broken, the spirits are angry, and we must appease them." The chief turned to Zara and Bayo. "Your child is a bridge between our world and the spirit world. She cannot stay here, but neither can we abandon her." Zara's heart pounded. "What will you do?" she asked, her voice trembling.
The chief continued, "There is a clearing near the village with fresh water and food. I propose Zara, Bayo, and Seraphina move there. They can care for her and act as guardians between our world and the spirits." The villagers murmured. Some nodded, others looked uneasy. Zara and Bayo exchanged glances. Living in the clearing would be difficult, but they would be together, and Seraphina would be safe. "Do you accept this proposal?" the chief asked. Zara took a deep breath. "Before I answer," she said, "I need to tell you all something." She recounted the events of the full moon night, describing the glowing forest and the Gorgon's warning. The village fell silent, many shocked, others nodding in understanding. The chief stroked his beard thoughtfully. "This explains much," he said. "Zara, you broke our sacred law, and this is the consequence. But it may also be an opportunity. Your child could help us understand the spirits." Zara nodded. "I see now why our traditions are important," she said. "I'm sorry for not believing, but I love my daughter and want to protect her. If moving to the clearing keeps her safe and helps the village, we'll do it." Bayo took Zara's hand. "We'll face this together," he said. The chief nodded. "Then it is decided. You will leave at dawn." The next morning, the entire village gathered at the forest's edge to say goodbye. Some brought gifts, others offered well wishes. Zara's parents hugged her tightly, tears in their eyes. "We'll miss you," her mother said, "but we're proud of you." As the sun rose, Zara, Bayo, and Seraphina set off. Seraphina glided beside her parents, her snakes leaving delicate imprints in the soft earth. They walked for hours until they reached the clearing. It was a beautiful place, surrounded by tall trees and filled with wild flowers. Zara and Bayo built a simple house near the edge of the clearing, with a special shelter for Seraphina. Life in the clearing was not easy, but it was peaceful. Zara and Bayo learned to hunt, gather fruits and herbs, and make everything they needed. Seraphina grew quickly, learning to speak and move with incredible grace. As Seraphina got older, Zara and Bayo realized that their daughter was special in more ways than just her appearance. Seraphina could talk to animals and understand the language of the forest. She could sense changes in the weather long before they happened. Sometimes, on quiet nights, Zara would hear Seraphina singing songs in a language she didn't understand, the language of the forest spirits. Every full moon, Zara would stand at the edge of the clearing and watch the forest, remembering that night so long ago. Sometimes she thought she saw flashes of movement among the trees or heard distant singing, but the Gorgons never appeared to her again. Back in the village, things slowly returned to normal. The animals came back, and the weather calmed down. Every month, a group from the village would come to the clearing, bringing supplies and news. The villagers were always eager to hear stories about Seraphina and her amazing abilities. As the years passed, Seraphina grew into a beautiful young woman. Her human half looked just like Zara, with long, dark hair and bright eyes. But her hair was a writhing mass of hissing snakes. Seraphina loved her life in the clearing, but she was also curious about the village where her parents had come from. "Tell me more about the people there," she would ask. "Do you think they would accept me now?" Zara and Bayo weren't sure how to answer. They knew that some people in the village were still afraid of anything different or unusual. But they also knew that attitudes could change over time. One day, when Seraphina was almost grown up, a big storm hit the clearing. The wind howled and the rain poured down in torrents. Zara, Bayo, and Seraphina huddled in their house, worried about how long the storm would last. As the storm raged on, Seraphina suddenly sat up straight, her eyes wide. "There's a group of travelers out there," she cried. "I can feel it. They're in trouble." Zara and Bayo looked at each other in alarm. "Are you sure?" Bayo asked. "No one should be out in this weather." Seraphina nodded firmly. "I'm sure. We have to help them." Without waiting for her parents to respond, Seraphina glided out of the house and into the storm. Zara and Bayo ran after her, but they could only watch from the edge of the clearing as their daughter disappeared into the raging forest. Hours passed, and the storm slowly began to die down. Zara and Bayo waited anxiously at the edge of the clearing, scanning the horizon for any sign of Seraphina or the travelers she had sensed. Just as the sun was starting to set, they saw something in the distance. As it got closer, they realized it was Seraphina, gliding towards them with a small group of bedraggled travelers following behind her. When Seraphina reached the clearing, the travelers stumbled in, looking dazed and exhausted. They stared at Seraphina in amazement, their eyes wide as they took in her Gorgon form. You saved us," one of the travelers stammered. "We thought we were going to die out there." Seraphina smiled at them. "I'm glad I could help," she said. "Are you from the village?" The travelers nodded. "Yes," one of them said. "We're traders. The storm came up so suddenly we couldn't find our way back." Zara and Bayo introduced themselves and invited the travelers to stay in the clearing until it was safe to return to the village. As they all sat around a warm fire that night, the travelers couldn't stop asking Seraphina questions about her life as a Gorgon. "I've heard stories about Gorgons," one of them said, "but I never thought they were real. You're amazing." Seraphina blushed, not used to so much attention. But she enjoyed talking to the travelers and hearing about life in the village. The next day, when the weather had calmed, it was time for the travelers to go home. As they prepared to leave, one of them turned to Seraphina. "We owe you our lives," he said. "We're going to tell everyone in the village about how you saved us. Maybe it's time for you to visit the village yourself. I think people would welcome you now." Seraphina's eyes lit up at the idea. She looked at her parents hopefully. Zara and Bayo glanced at each other, then nodded slowly. "Maybe it is time," Zara said. "Things have changed. People might be ready to accept you now." And so, a week later, Seraphina made her first trip to the village. Zara and Bayo went with her, nervous but excited. They had arranged for her to stay in a large meadow on the outskirts of the village, where people could come and meet her. At first, the villagers were hesitant. They gathered at a distance, whispering and pointing. But then the travelers Seraphina had saved stepped forward. They told everyone how Seraphina had braved the storm to rescue them, how kind and brave she was. Slowly, people began to approach. Children were the first, curious and unafraid. They asked Seraphina questions about life in the forest and marveled at her beautiful form. As the day went on, more and more villagers came to meet Seraphina. They brought her gifts of pretty stones and asked her to tell them stories about the forest. Even some of the elders came, nodding approvingly as they saw how gentle and wise Seraphina was. By the end of the day, it seemed like the whole village had fallen in love with Seraphina. The chief even made a speech, declaring that Seraphina and her family would always be welcome in the village. "We were wrong to send you away," he said to Zara and Bayo. "Your daughter is a blessing, not a curse. She has taught us that different doesn't mean bad, and that the spirits of the forest can be our friends, not our enemies." From that day on, things changed in the village. Seraphina began to visit regularly, teaching the hunters about the best times to hunt and warning them about coming storms. She helped children learn to appreciate the beauty of the forest and told them stories about its wonders. The villagers, in turn, began to take better care of the forest. They were more careful about not overhunting and they stopped cutting down too many trees. They even started a tradition of leaving small gifts at the edge of the forest at each full moon to thank the forest spirits for their blessings. Zara and Bayo were so proud of their daughter. They saw how she had brought two worlds together, teaching humans and forest creatures to live in harmony. As for Seraphina, she was happy to have found her place in both worlds. She loved her life in the clearing with her parents, but she also loved her visits to the village. She felt like she truly belonged in both places. Years passed, and Seraphina grew into a wise and respected leader. She became known far and wide as the Gorgon of Peace, a bridge between the land and the forest. One day, when Seraphina was fully grown, she was gliding through the forest when she saw a familiar glow among the trees. The Gorgons appeared, led by the same one who had spoken to Zara so many years ago. "Seraphina," the Gorgon said, her voice like the soft hiss of wind through leaves, "you have done well. You have brought understanding and harmony between our worlds." Seraphina bowed her head respectfully. "I've tried my best," she said. "I love both the land and the forest, and I want everyone to live in peace." The Gorgon smiled. "We give you the power to change," she said. "To have normal hair when you wish to walk on land, and a serpent's hair when you want to move in the forest. You could truly live in both worlds." Seraphina's eyes widened in surprise. It was something she had dreamed of but never thought possible. But then she thought of her parents, of the life they had built in the clearing, of the people in the village who had come to accept her as she was.
"Thank you," she said, her voice steady. "But I have learned that I do not need to change myself to fit in. I am who I am, and I am proud of that." The Gorgon smiled, a look of respect in her eyes. "You are indeed wise, Seraphina. May you continue to bring peace and understanding to our worlds." With that, the Gorgons vanished, and Seraphina returned to her clearing, her heart full of purpose. She continued her work, bridging the gap between humans and the forest, teaching respect and harmony. As Seraphina grew older, she discovered a hidden grove deep in the forest. It was there she met Kobe, a young male Gorgon with eyes full of wisdom and mischief. They quickly became friends, their bond deepening into love. Seraphina and Kobe decided to marry in a beautiful ceremony attended by forest spirits and a few trusted humans. Their love became a legend, symbolizing unity between two worlds. After their marriage, Seraphina and Kobe lived in a secluded grove, raising a family and continuing their work of fostering peace. Zara and Bayo, proud of their daughter, visited often. The village flourished, known for its wisdom and harmony. As time passed, Seraphina noticed the number of Gorgons dwindling. She realized her kind was slowly becoming extinct, deeply connected to the forest's magic. One evening, as she watched the sunset, she felt a deep sense of peace. She had fulfilled her purpose. The story of Zara and Seraphina became a cherished legend, told throughout the land. It was a tale of bravery, love, and acceptance, teaching that what we fear most can become our greatest blessing. Even today, if you visit the forest, you might hear the faint sound of hissing and the soft rustle of leaves. If you're very lucky, you might catch a glimpse of a shimmering Gorgon, a symbol of harmony, a reminder of Seraphina, the last of her kind.
I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.